Good day, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to our event, the exclusive dialogue with His Excellency U Downturn, Union Minister of Investment and Foreign Economic Relations and Chairman of the Myanmar Investment Commission. I'm Thompson Chow, Chief Reporter and Associate Editor of the Myanmar Times, and I'm very pleased to be the moderator today. It is our honor today to have His Excellency U Downturn to speak with us and join a dialogue with our chamber leaders, Mr. Edgar Kwan, Marga Group Chief Development Officer of Marga Group, and Cyrus Pun and Adrian Short, our two chamber vice chairmen. Without more ado, I'd like to pass it on to Edgar for the opening speech. Edgar.
Thank you, Thompson. Your Excellency, U Downturn, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great pleasure of Myanmar Hong Kong Chamber of Commerce and Industry, MHKCCI, to organize this exclusive dialogue with His Excellency, U Downturn today. Firstly, I would like to express my gratitude to our diverse group of audience members from both Hong Kong and Myanmar. Everyone is here with the same purpose, that is, to exchange insights on Myanmar's prospects and the opportunities for Hong Kong businesses, as well as the Myanmar business. The bilateral lives of Myanmar and Hong Kong are growing stronger and stronger. Myanmar is a market with much potential for Hong Kong. Myanmar's economic reforms in recent years brought about strong economic growth and attract a large number of foreign investors, including those from Hong Kong. And we are most encouraged to learn that in the first 7 months of 2019 to 2020 fiscal year, Hong Kong was the top source of foreign direct investment for Myanmar. It is expected the country will continue to draw investment interest in different areas, such as real estate development, electricity and power, manufacturing, and service industry, etc. Hong Kong also provides world-class services to facilitate Myanmar's development and infrastructure projects, including those related to the Belt and Road Initiative, while Myanmar enterprise can also leverage our unique advantage as an international financial, logistic, and trading center to explore the global market. 2020 has certainly been a very challenging year. Regionally and globally, we are facing a lot of challenges caused by slowing economic growth and uncertainties. But on the other hand, we believe the emerging economic landscape would bring forth new opportunities. Hong Kong has been actively supporting Asian economies in the capacity building, and we stand ready to share our experience in the talent development and management with you. This afternoon, we are honored to have His Excellency U Downturn to share with us the latest updates on Myanmar's investment environment and other related initiatives. Our chamber MHKCCI Vice Chairman, Mr. Adrian Short, General Manager, Cycle and Courage Myanmar, and also Mr. Cyrus Pun, the Chief CEO of Memories Group, will also join us later to examine such topical issues as Myanmar's emerging sectors and investment needs, as well as its evolving economic relation with the Asian neighbors. Now, before I go, I would like to thank MHKCCI, founded last year by a group of the like-minded individuals who share a passion for developing and strengthening the bilateral economic relations between Myanmar and Hong Kong. Along with the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, the Hong Kong Macau Myanmar Manufacturing Association, and the Dyson Foundation for supporting this event. And I'm sure we will continue to work together to bring the Hong Kong-Myanmar relationship to the next level. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all an enjoyable afternoon and an insightful and rewarding session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Edgar. May we now invite Minister U Downturn to give his keynote remarks to us. Minister.
Well, thank you, Thompson. Thank you, Edgar, for your introduction. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and greetings to all of you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this afternoon. Let me begin by offering a special thank you to the organizers, the Myanmar Hong Kong Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We appreciate all that you do to promote trade, to encourage responsible investment, and to strengthen economic relations with Myanmar. Hong Kong is one of Myanmar's major trading and investment partners. This is not surprising, as Hong Kong has established itself as an investment, finance, banking, and logistics hub par excellence, playing a prominent role facilitating trade and investment flows throughout our region and indeed throughout the world. As investment minister, I've had the good fortune to visit Hong Kong on several occasions. And on each occasion, I have been proud to play a role in enhancing stronger ties between Myanmar and Hong Kong. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go further, I would like to take a brief moment to acknowledge the presence with us today of fellow panelists. Of course, you just heard Mr. Edgar C.P. Kwan, Mega Group Chief Development Officer and Chamber Chair. In recent years, the Mega Group has taken a leading position in our real estate and telecommunications sector, including Yangon's The Central, a flagship world-class mixed-use development and a shining example of our real estate and retail sector's tremendous potential. The Central is ideally located across the street from the Myanmar Investment Commission's office in Yangon. Next, we have Cyrus Pan, Memories Group CEO and Chamber Vice Chair. When it comes to our nation's hotels and tourism industry, the Memories Group has most certainly been a trailblazer, from the now world-famous balloons over Bagan to stakes in the iconic Strand and Ayan Lake hotels. We look forward to your continued success as a leading provider of world-class, responsible tourism experiences. Mr. Adrian Short, Cycle and Carriage Myanmar General Manager and Chamber Vice Chair. As a leading regional automotive group and as the official distributor and major automotive brands, including Mercedes-Benz, a brand that is very much in the public eye because of the diplomatic community and because of the official cars used by the government, but perhaps a little outside of my price range. Cycle and Carriage continues to play an important role in an increasing competitive sector here in Myanmar. And of course, our esteemed moderator, Mr. Thompson Chua, Myanmar Times Chief Reporter and Associate Editor. I understand Thomas and I have a chat scheduled for tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to this. Thank you all very much for pulling together today's event, and thanks to each of you for your leadership, demonstrating each day what responsible, quality investment can do in Myanmar, creating employment opportunities, transferring skills and technologies, and contributing to a more prosperous, peaceful nation. The Myanmar-Hong Kong Chamber of Commerce, established in February last year, could be viewed as a new kid on the block. But in reality, the institution itself has gone back a long ways. Hong Kong and Myanmar share a long history. Indeed, growing up in Yangon, I have often passed by the Mahabandula Park and noticed the impressive building which houses the Myanmar Foreign Trade Bank. That place was previously occupied by the Yangon branch of the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, once a regional training ground for young, ambitious bankers. Many will not know that in 1942, faced with the Japanese advance, Rangoon's bankers hastened to move their records and material out of the city, first by sea and then by train, most traveling north in search of Mandalay's relative safety. However, not all made it onto the train. Indeed, historians recount of at least one senior HSBC banker who, having missed the train, was forced to trek north all the way to India. Incredibly, so they say, he crossed the border without a single dollar missing. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that Myanmar has so much to offer Hong Kong investors. Likewise, Myanmar has much to learn from Hong Kong's decades-long development journey. With your vibrant financial services industry, broad-based technical know-how, and capital-raising expertise, I believe your island city is well positioned to make a unique and positive contribution to Myanmar's development. I note the title of today's event recognizes that Myanmar is truly brimming with opportunities, a phrase both the State Councillor and I have used on many occasions, and I do believe it to be true. But don't just take me for my word. Let the facts speak for themselves. In the fiscal year just passed, we secured around US 5.7 billion in FDI approvals, no less than a 37% year-to-year increase. Indeed, despite challenging global, regional, and domestic headwinds, we were successful in attracting more than 25 billion US dollars in FDI commitments. Well over 1,000 investment permits and endorsements were granted in this period. With this, we have laid the foundations for as many as 100,000 new jobs, quality jobs that will catalyze our post-pandemic economic recovery. Myanmar is the largest country in mainland Southeast Asia and is home to 54 million people. As a result of the sustained efforts of the government and people, poverty has been halved within the span of a single generation. GDP per capita has risen more than 11-fold within a similar period. We are also seeing a rapid structural diversification from an agro-based economy to rapid expansions in manufacturing, industry, and services. I believe, as I'm sure you do also, that in Myanmar today, despite challenges, the arc of progress continues to lean towards peace, justice, and prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, over the years, we have achieved growth rates between 6 and 8% annually, placing Myanmar amongst ASEAN's fastest growing economies. However, today, taking into account the impact of COVID-19, on our economy, the IMF forecasts Myanmar's growth at closer to 2%, still placing us among a small handful of nations who will post positive growth this year. Thankfully, most forecasts suggest the century, this country will return to pre-crisis growth of 6% plus in 2021. However, this post-COVID rebound will not occur without a significant and continued scaling up of quality, responsible investment, the likes of which one frequently associates with Hong Kong. One area where I see significant opportunity for Hong Kong investors is in our burgeoning transport sector. As a strategic land bridge connecting two of the world's largest regional economies, those of South and Southeast Asia, we also wish to play a greater connecting role, connecting East and West from the Middle East to the Mekong. Such connectivity will necessitate a significant investment in our transport and logistics sector, an area brimming with opportunity, you may say. One example of the tremendous opportunity this sector has to offer can be seen in our participation in the 1,700-kilometer China-Myanmar economic corridor, encompassing a comprehensive investment program and with it the potential to further transform Myanmar's economy. The initiative will demand increased and diversified investment in infrastructure, ports, roads, railways, urban housing, border cooperation zones, agriculture, technology, cyber and clean energy projects, amongst many others. Spillover effects will no doubt benefit the expansion of new industrial and special economic zones, whether they be the further development of existing zones in Tilawa, Chowkyu, Dawei, and elsewhere, or new sites such as Dala and Moon State that we are thinking of. Furthermore, as can be seen in the recent announcement of our partnership to push forward with the West Yangon Industrial Park, together with Roland Berger, a leading global consultancy firm, whose work in Myanmar is already well known. This government is committed to ensuring commercial viability while safeguarding adherence to international global best practice, including open, transparent international competitive bidding. Energy is another area where I believe Myanmar offers significant investment potential. As you may be aware, Myanmar today continues to experience one of Asia's lowest rates of electrification, while demand grows at 10 to 20% each year. We have recently embarked upon a series of nationally significant energy projects, including a recent notice to proceed with the much anticipated Tilawa LNG to power project, among Myanmar's largest, equal to 1/5 of our country's current power generation capacity, and the recent competitive bidding process for 30 solar power projects that are expected to deliver 1,000 megawatts. These solar generation facilities are anticipated to come on stream within 6 months. Despite well-documented challenges, we received a total of 155 bids with an average winning price of US $0.0422 per unit, highly competitive, far below industry expectations, and representing an excellent deal for Myanmar's consumers. Few would disagree that a stable power supply will unlock further investment in manufacturing and other sectors, generating new jobs for a young population eager for opportunities. I believe these projects, combined with this government's commitment to electrify the entire nation by 2030, send a clear message that Myanmar is indeed brimming with opportunities. A third potential area can be found in our banking and finance sector, a sector which has been well and truly reimagined following a range of ambitious initiatives and new reforms. The Central Bank of Myanmar has recently opened up to foreign banks who have entered the Myanmar market and are ready to compete. Foreign financial institutions can now acquire up to 35% of local private banks. And with the stock market recently open to international investors are, for now, able to hold up to 35% of each listed company. The Myanmar securities law has also been amended as recently as March 2020, now permitting offshore and Myanmar-based foreigners to open accounts with local brokers and trade at the Yangon Stock Exchange. Other reforms have allowed us to generate further immediate gains, reducing financial and fiscal deficits and lowering inflation. And of course, partly in response to COVID-19, we have seen a steep increase in the use of mobile money services as well as mobile wallets linked to private banks. I think in many ways, the COVID-19 pandemic has propelled us into the digital era. Perhaps today's virtual meeting is evidence of that fact. Ladies and gentlemen, these and many other critical areas will require ongoing significant investments in both physical, institutional, and social infrastructure. And we look forward to welcome you to be part of this journey. In the meantime, and needless to say, the current COVID-19 pandemic is dealing a severe blow to all of us. While we in Myanmar are currently in the midst of a COVID-19 second wave, I wish to assure you that the government is expanding every available resource to limit the spread of the disease, while to the greatest extent possible, limiting further social and economic hardship. I assure you, I and the government are not unaware of the plight of our people and the hardships they are being asked to endure. Having now allocated 3.4% of our GDP to fiscal stimulus measures in line with emerging market averages and with more in the pipeline, I'm confident that we will weather the storm and will pull through stronger and more unified. Ladies and gentlemen, major new capital investments combined with an expansionary fiscal policy are further contributing to growth in the short term, while a range of deeper structural reforms are now underway that will sustain our growth over the medium to long term. For the past few years, the Myanmar Sustainable Development Plan, MSDP, served as a trusted guide, helping us identify and make progress on areas deemed critical for our continued development. However, COVID-19 has derailed these plans to some extent. Therefore, to address the immediate impact of COVID-19, we launched our COVID-19 Economic Relief Plan, or CERP. This plan has served as a useful short-term roadmap. However, to guide us through the medium term, we are now in the midst of drafting a new medium-term Myanmar Economic Recovery and Reform Plan, MERRP. The MERRP will act as a link between the CERP and MSDP, with action plans designed to achieve the MSDP's goals relating to macroeconomic stability and to unleash private sector-led economic growth. At the same time, we remain focused on moving more of the work of government online, to make it even easier for investors to do business in Myanmar while reducing red tape and bureaucratic inertia. You will no doubt already be familiar with the new Myanmar Investment Law, introduced in 2016, and Companies Law 2017, creating a fairer and more level playing field between foreign and domestic investors. You are likely also familiar with intellectual property, tax administration, insolvency, and industrial zone laws, all contributing to an improved investment enabling environment. All have been designed to unlock Myanmar's true investment potential. Also guiding us along this path is our Myanmar Investment Promotion Plan, MIPP, now a few years old, which seeks to attract more than 200 billion US dollars through responsible and quality business over the next 20 years, facilitating Myanmar's transition to a middle income country. We intend to revise and update the MIPP over the coming months to make amendments in response to business conditions which have changed the context of the COVID-19 pandemic and to help us prepare for a post-COVID era. In doing so, we seek to address our nation's needs in the short and medium term, but not in ways that come at the expense of future generations. Instead, we here at the Ministry are fully focused on making sure we get the fundamentals right, creating an environment that seeks out and attracts responsible investors, creating a legal framework in which the needs of our people is balanced with the natural environment and generations to come. To conclude, let me say a few words on corporate social responsibility. We offer a fair and level playing field while seeking responsible investment into Myanmar that creates quality jobs, expands opportunities, sustains growth, and spreads prosperity. And just as importantly, as a country continues its transition, respect for human rights can and must serve as a foundation upon which an inclusive and vibrant economy able to benefit the interests of all Myanmar's people can be built. In this regard, we have seen firsthand how Hong Kong investors in Myanmar have developed substantial CSR portfolios, turning a healthy profit while benefiting local communities, supporting progress in education, infrastructure, health, among other areas. With this valuable expertise and experience, I believe your island city is well positioned to make a unique and positive contribution to Myanmar's development trajectory. Ladies and gentlemen, our long history of friendship and economic cooperation stands as a remarkable achievement. I feel it would be more than safe to say that Hong Kong has been and will most certainly continue to be a valued partner for Myanmar throughout the years ahead. As one of the world's most exciting emerging markets, just 3 hours away by flight from Hong Kong, I wish to assure investors that we are all committed to working with you to further enhance Myanmar-Hong Kong trading and investment relationship. Indeed, Hong Kong investors embody the type of responsible investment we seek here in Myanmar, and we look forward to continuing our cooperation over the years to come. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Minister. And may we now invite Minister U Dang-chun to join us for a fireside chat with our Vice Chairs, Adrian and Cyrus. We have around 30 minutes to have a fireside chat, followed by a 15 minutes question and answer session. So for those who are watching today's event, if you have questions, please key in your questions in the Q&A function in the Zoom. And do not put it in chat. Please key that in the Q&A section in Zoom. And so perhaps Minister Cyrus and Adrian, for a first broader question to start off fireside chat, maybe Cyrus can answer first and interact with the minister on this. Is in the short term, what are the short-term investment needs for Myanmar? I mean, Cyrus, you are based in Yangon. I mean, you have investments across the country. Could you share with us your thoughts?
Well, I think the minister in the minister's presentation has been very clear and very powerful to where infrastructure building is critical to Myanmar's development, actually both in the short term and in the long term. We actually see a lot of investors, whether it's in the manufacturing field or other industries, wanting to come into Myanmar. And very much the first question they ask is about the infrastructure of electricity and water, right? So I think fundamentally that is what's going to pave the way for even bigger investments to come in. So I think clearly that is on everyone's mind, and that's the big focus that everyone has. And leading on to that, I would also say that in the past years there had been a lot of interested investors wanting to come to Myanmar. Over the last 5-9 years or so. Many of them have come and actually invested. Some of them have backed out. As a chamber and as a company working in Myanmar, our ambition is to bring more and more people into Myanmar. One of the topics I would like to ask His Excellency on is about the ease of doing business. And Your Excellency, my question is sort of more geared towards, given that in the audience, we have about half of the audience from Hong Kong who may not know the inner workings of the government so much. So I would just like you to just expand a little bit about the role of the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Economic Relations. This ministry was set up in 2019, and I remember going to a few of the investment conferences, the investment summit that was organized by the government, and we took away a very, very encouraging message, a very strong message that from the very top of the government, the attention to bring in foreign investment or even to stimulate local investment is going to be one of the highest priorities. It has been given a new refocus. The Ministry of Investment and Foreign Economic Relations was set up, and many people see this as let's call it a super ministry that would help coordinate many other ministries to ease and facilitate investment coming in. And that was a very good sign. So if I may just ask you to just elaborate for the sake of the people who are not maybe so familiar with Myanmar, but would want to consider investing in Myanmar, if you can just give a view on how the ministry has been able to actually break down a lot of the red tape. You mentioned about red tape during your speech as well, and to help ease investment on that. And will we see any more policy change in the year to come, in the next year? In 2019, there was also an announcement about the power of MIC, the Myanmar Investment Commission, a lot of it being devolved to the local government to make the investment decisions. So how effective has that been in speeding up investment approvals? And are we going to see any more new policies in that direction? Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cyrus, for that interesting question that you posed, and thank you for your remarks. First, let me begin with the remark on the energy sector. I fully share your view that there can be no development without energy. So I think it is important for Myanmar to first concentrate on making sure that we have enough energy for the kind of investment we are looking out for. So if you will notice some of the tender that have been put out in recent months, you will see that we are doubling up on trying to make sure that we have enough electricity by the year 2030. But even before that, we will have a number of the projects that are being proposed that will see the light of day. For example, in the last year itself, there are a couple of companies based in Hong Kong, the V-Power company and others that have been given the green light to set up electricity generation facilities from the LNG to gas programs that we are thinking of. Also, you may have also read about a Japanese consortia of 3 companies that have been given notice to proceed to set up an LNG to electricity plant in the Yangon region, just across the river near Tilawa. We also have a number of pipeline projects which we hope to give the green light in the coming months, and we will have more than enough power generation for Yangon and for the industries around Yangon. We expect to have about 7,000 to 8,000 megawatts added. So that would make it possible for companies from Hong Kong and elsewhere looking for new pastures and looking for industrial parks in Myanmar. In fact, we have given permission to set up a couple of industrial parks in Yangon in just the past few months. The first one that comes to mind is the one from Thailand. Amata Group from Thailand will be setting up an industrial park in the north of Yangon. Very soon, they will be followed by the Koreans, KMIC, Korean Myanmar Industrial Complex. If you had a chance to look at the newspapers today, you will find that there's a bid announcement for KMIC development. This is the bid announcement put in by the KMIC, Korean Myanmar Industrial Complex Development Company. They will start up with the earth-moving works, which means that KMIC is already on the way. And subsequently, we hope to see Singapore join the group because Singapore has also been given green light to set up an industrial park. And earlier I mentioned the fact that Roland Berger is now working to see if we can make progress with the Yangon Industrial Park in the new Yangon City project that has been proposed. So all these projects are going forward, including projects to generate more electricity in the coming years. With regard to the work of the ministry, you are perfectly right. 2 years ago, in November 2018, we set up this new Ministry of Myanmar Investment and Foreign Economic Relations, primarily because we think it is important to focus on investment, to give our attention to investment so that we make sure that there's the ease of doing business. It's not just words, but so that we walk the walk also. You will find that we have made some important changes. Some of them are in the legal framework. So we have made sure that the Myanmar investment law is now more friendly, and then it does not discriminate between investors from abroad and from home. So you will see that in the new law. Also, we have made some structural changes. We will now make it easier for investors to come, first of all, to register as a company. So the registration is online. Myanmar companies registration is digital. It can be done quickly online. That's a major step forward. We are cutting down red tape. And number two, we are now looking to set up a standard operating procedure. This standard operating procedure will make it easy for the Directorate of Companies Administration, which is the Secretariat of the MIC, sure that things are done in an orderly fashion and things are expedited. So we will have a standard operating procedure. We also will be setting up a land bank, which will be coming up soon. We have already set up a project bank. So together with the project bank, the land bank will enable investors to have the possibility to get the land they need for their projects. And that would facilitate the way they are able to proceed. And of course, today I'm happy to see representatives, say from MAGA, who have been very active in the real estate and telecoms sector. And they can probably attest to the changes that we have made. With regard to the land that they were seeking, for example, to expand their projects, they will find that it has been expedited, that they can go forward with these projects. And that is one of the ways we are seeking to make sure that the ease of doing business is done in practice. And of course, I'm pretty sure all of you have noticed that in the world Ease of Doing Business Index last year, we were among the top 20 in the world. So that is an indication of the changes that we are making. I think I'll stop there for now. So you can take more questions.
Great. Thank you, Minister. If I may follow up with one more question to the Minister. Hong Kong is a hub, as you pointed out, for a lot of investment to come through. And these are not just Hong Kong-based investment, it's global investment. A big proportion was also from Chinese companies flowing through investment firms in Hong Kong. So obviously, we also see and hope that Hong Kong can contribute to the infrastructure development in Myanmar. And we're seeing a lot of Chinese companies coming in to invest in these infrastructure projects. This is something very close to many of our hearts because, of course, historically and now, Hong Kong is a major hub for many of the Chinese companies to be either raising money or to operate through Hong Kong. And this I think is where a lot of Hong Kong companies can bring value to the table to organize and arrange financing to come. So one of the questions I'm burning to ask is, how do you see the involvement of Chinese companies in Myanmar going forward? They're already very active and already very visible. Do you see their investments to expand even more in relation to all the other countries, whether it's the Western countries or Japan? Do you see that balance tilting much more to the Chinese companies, or do you see a different scenario there?
Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you very much for that question. Well, I believe that the world today is changing, but at the same time, in terms of geography and specific location, for Myanmar, we remain the same. We are located right in the heart of Southeast Asia. In fact, we are situated between the two fastest growing economies in the world, India and China. And I think this makes us an attractive destination for investment. And we are not surprised that Chinese companies are investing in Myanmar. We have a long border with China. We have traditionally good relations with China, and we're happy to welcome any responsible investment from any part of the world. At the moment, there are a lot of Chinese companies. Some of them are coming through Hong Kong, some of them are coming through Singapore, and some of them are coming directly to us. What is important is that we plan to have a level playing field for all investors. We want to make sure that we have responsible investment. So if the Chinese companies are responsible to bring in quality investment, we will welcome them. So also companies from Hong Kong or Singapore and elsewhere. What we are looking for is responsible investment that will help promote the prosperity of the people of Myanmar, and that will help result in a win-win situation for the investor and for the country. So we are looking for investors from all around. We noticed that, for example, because of the tensions between major powers today, and because of COVID-19, there has been some movement to diversification. Some companies are thinking of moving to different countries. They're seeking greener pastures, so to say. So we noticed, for example, that some Japanese companies are moving out to Vietnam and Thailand and elsewhere, and even companies from the US like Apple are seeking greener pastures in India. All this is happening at the same time. We hope that when people look at the investment destinations, they will consider Myanmar as a good place to land, mainly because we have made changes to the legal framework. We have promoted ease of doing business. We now have a standard operating procedure, and we will expedite any proposal that comes to the MIC, but making sure that as long as these proposals are responsible, they would be most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Perhaps I think Adrian would like to follow up with another area, another question. So maybe Adrian, you can pick from here, start from here.
Yes, sure. You actually, thank you for joining us on this call and providing a very clear and candid approach to how Myanmar views investment, which is very, very good for us to hear. Fair and transparent process and ease of regulatory frameworks are very important, and we should make sure that as those are introduced, we understand how they work. Cyrus talked a little about the infrastructure requirements from fiscal infrastructure, such as power, water, roads. Equally, one of the things that you've been reforming, and maybe you can talk to people about, is the services sector, because that is quite important to Hong Kong businesses who are active in services such as insurance, finance, banking, etc. And so maybe you can talk about that to this audience and maybe the digitalization of that. But another question I'd really like to understand is, we started with MSDP and we moved quite rightly to CERP, and we're now moving to MERRP. Just like technical question here is, within the CERP, there were two sections, 2.3 on promote investment and 2.4 on promote international trade. Do you envisage that the MERRP will grow those sections of the report and move on from CRP to MERRP? So a lot of acronyms here. Or do you see the MIPP sitting alongside it? So could you maybe explain to the audience how you see each of these documents and how companies looking to invest can easily navigate between these documents to understand the investment criteria that they are entering into?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adrian. Now we enter a different sphere. I think it's interesting for the audience. First, the very fact that we're meeting online in spite of the COVID situation is the advance of technology that had made it happen. So we are using technology, we're using digital means to be able to contact each other. And this is an advance in Myanmar, and this has happened only within the context of a decade or so, that we have been able to improve telecommunications and bring it up to speed. So today we are able to communicate with each other online. And this is excellent, and not only for this purpose, but also in the sector that you're interested in terms of insurance, in terms of sending money digitally. So this is a very important improvement. I think COVID-19 situation has urged us and pushed us a little bit to enter the digital momentum at a time when it's most needed. So this is very pertinent. With regard to the plans that we have rolled out, initially when we were faced with COVID-19 in the beginning of the year, the first case in Myanmar was in March. So we responded with an emergency response, and this was the 100 billion jets fund that we put up, followed by a second 100 billion jets. And we found that the emergency response needed to be more, needed more funds. So what we did was to set up the CERP. It is a kind of a shorter term, the immediate term response to the economic situation we face. So from the emergency response, we came up with the CRP, and you are right, in this CRP, we speak about investment and we speak about trade. But for the longer term, we thought we would need to come up with MERP. This is something that would bridge the CRP to fulfill our MSDP goals, which are the longer range goals that we have set for ourselves from the very beginning. But the MSDP was, so to say, derailed by the unexpected arrival of COVID-19, or it was in danger of being derailed. So we had to come up with a short-term plan, which was the CERP. The CERP will now be turned into the MERRP, which is to flesh out the skeletons that we have in the CRP. So MERRP will contain more details. It will be based on 6 goals, but there will be a number of activities that will be spelled out. This is a work in progress. We expect to have it out in a couple of weeks, and you will be able to see the activities by sector, so that we will make sure that, and then we would like to make sure that ministries concerned will have a clearer picture of their own responsibilities with regard to moving the economic recovery and making sure that the reform plan works. So we will indicate the activities and which ministries will be responsible for which particular set of activities. So this is the more, I would say, a more meticulous, detailed plan that you can expect to see in a few weeks.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and we will very much welcome that document. And as the Chamber as well, please do consider us as colleagues and friends in talking to you and discussing the details of those documents. We would be more than happy to add our views and opinions just as guidance because of the network of businesses we work with. So I'd like that to consider. But maybe I could pivot towards special economic zones and industrial parks. This has been quite an important part of your investment requirements, but maybe you could explain a little bit about the differences between industrial parks and special economic zones, and whether you have different views for the ones that may end up in the Mon State, ones that are around Yangon. Are you looking for special purposes for these? Because there is quite a number of them, and I just would like to understand how you are looking for businesses to establish and whereabouts they should consider.
Well, thank you very much. First off, I'd like to say that there are some differences between industrial parks and special economic zones, particularly because special economic zones have their own laws, and they are incubators for some of the industries that we plan to do. And then if they succeed in the SEZ, it can be transferred to other parts of the country where they can continue with this kind of work that they do. So special economic zones at the moment, we have one that is working very well at Tilawa. You are aware that this is a joint venture with the Japanese, and we are now in the second stage. And so this is proceeding quite well. We also envisage one in Rakhine, and this is in Chao Phu. This will be one of the terminals for the China-Myanmar economic corridor. So this Chao Phu already has a gas and oil pipeline that goes to Kunming in Yunnan. We expect there will be other connections. There will be rail connections from Muse in China to Lashio and Mandalay, and then onward to other places. So we will have the special economic zone just like Tilawa in Chao Phu. And Chao Phu, being a deep sea port, will be able not only to bring in big vessels, because the draft in Chowpyu will be around 15 to 18 meters. So they will be able to handle bigger container ships and bigger tankers. Similarly, in the south, we are planning to have one in Dawei. Dawei is something that is ongoing, but has some constraints. Because it was initially conceived with a group of Thai companies and Japanese as partners, but they're having some issues on the Thai companies' side in trying to get the funds that they need to have this go forward. So the Dawei is having some issues that they need to iron out. In the meantime, 2 months ago, we had announced during the meeting with the Japanese Chamber of Commerce, much like we're doing today, that we plan to have another economic zone in the Mon state. We have not identified the location. The reason we have said Mon is, as was shown on the map a few minutes ago, the east-west corridor that the ASEAN countries have agreed to in the Mekong region includes Myanmar, Myanmar, and Da Nang on the other side in Vietnam. So if you look at the map, you will see that there is a corridor, east-west corridor, which would be very relevant for this kind of an SEZ. So if we were able to put an SEZ in Mon State, say near Myanmar, or there's an island there where there can be deep sea ports, then we will be able to join two oceans. South China Sea and the Indian Ocean will be connected. And most of the traffic that is going through the Strait of Malacca now may not have to do that. If you have the possibility to cross-ship your products from Da Nang in South China Sea through Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar within a matter of hours, say within a day, then that will make it attractive. That's why we are considering to put a special economic zone in Mon State, and we intend to have the power and electricity possible for the that area. So we will show you the map of the Mon State corridor, and then you will see it very clearly what I mean by connecting the two oceans. This would make it possible for investors to invest either in the coast of Myanmar or in the coast of Vietnam. So if you look at the map on the screen now, in the bottom left, you will see Myanmar and you will see the Indian Ocean, and on the other side is the South China Sea. And the green line is the highway that connects the two areas. It's already there. So all we need to do is to put in a SEZ in the Mon State. And we are looking forward to have partners, including from Hong Kong, of course, if you are interested to come and join us here.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'll hand back to Mr. Thompson now, because I think we have a number of questions online. So I'll leave it with you, Thompson, to moderate and decide how we proceed from here.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, U Dangtun. Sure. So we'll now we have a few questions from our supporting organizations and also from members of the audience. I mean, the Hong Kong, Macau, and Myanmar Chamber of Commerce and Industry, one of the today supporting organizations, have sent in a question, and they want to ask Minister, how do you see Myanmar, mainland China, particularly Yunnan province, and Hong Kong working together on investment for mutual development?
Yes, thank you very much for this very important question. As I said earlier, we have a long border with China, and this border on the Chinese side is Yunnan. So we have a 2,000-kilometer border with Yunnan, and we look very much forward to working together with Yunnan. Even today, we have a lot of traffic between Yunnan and Myanmar. The road transport connections are there. We hope that Yunnan, as it grows, will be able to invest in Myanmar, particularly because Yunnan also needs an outlet to the sea. If the provinces of Yunnan and Sichuan, for example, need to send the products out, they will need an entree port somewhere. So they can either go to Guangzhou or they can come to Chaoqiu. And of course, if we have connections to Chaoqiu, it's be better connected, and then it would benefit both Yunnan and Myanmar. So we'd be happy to do that. And if Hong Kong and Yunnan join forces to invest in Myanmar, that would be perfectly fine too. What we want to see is responsible investment. So if these investors make sure that they respect the environment, they are also willing to transfer technology, then we'll be happy to work together with them. So we will welcome investors from Hong Kong working with Yunnan or with other provinces from China. So it's already in effect taking place. A road network with Yunnan is there. We are now working on a railway connection. The proposal has already been made. We are now at a stage where there's a Swiss company looking at a feasibility study of this railway link, because it involves tunnels and big viaducts, so that there can be quick connection between Muse on the border of China with Lashu in Myanmar and then on to Mandalay. So we do hope that this will proceed as planned.
Thank you. And we have two similar questions from another two supporting organizations for today. The Hong Kong Trade Development Council, who want to ask, they say that many investors would be small and medium-sized enterprises, and when they come in here in Myanmar and do business and set up a business here, would they be considered a local SME, and what sort of government assistance or support would be available for SMEs? And Darshan Foundation also asked a similar question about how young entrepreneurs or professionals with limited financial resources can sustain and grow a startup in Myanmar, and what potential policies should they look out for? I think these two are quite similar. So, Minister, perhaps you can answer that together.
Yes, indeed, I think they are similar in many ways. I think for them to understand the atmosphere here, I would like to refer back to what I was saying about some of the plans that we have for the country in terms of the economy. So we had earlier come up with the MSDP, the Myanmar plan, but then we were hit by COVID. So now we are talking about a new, more comprehensive long-term plan called the MERRP that I mentioned to Adrian earlier. The MERRP has 6 goals, and one of the main goals, the first goal is to strengthen macroeconomic environment. When we strengthen macroeconomic environment, that would mean that the SMEs will have a better situation. So we will make sure that the SMEs can operate in a better environment. And next, we also would like to strengthen, promote private sector development. So SMEs, normally some of them are micro and small enterprises, but they are privately owned, and we will try to facilitate the entry into the market. We also have a grievance mechanism now being set up, so that if there should be some grievance, some problems, we can make sure that there is a mechanism there for people to have redress to some of the problems that they face. So we are doing that. we also promoting the financial sector and the rural sector. So in the agro industries, when we promote inclusive rural growth, if we are to improve the rural growth, if it is to be inclusive, then smaller companies would have a role to play in this. So we would be happy to welcome SMEs. And also, now that we are setting up industrial parks, the one with Thailand, the one with Korea, the one with Singapore, and the one that we are still tendering, it would mean that there will be possibility for these small industries come and take root here. For example, there are car companies, the likes of Suzuki, Toyota, and Mitsubishi, who are planning to enter the market. Suzuki already has a factory at the Ilawa, as we said. Toyota is building one as we speak. So these automobile industries would need the small industries to feed it to them. They would need the accessories factories that come around with it. So if some of these small factories of Hong Kong and parts of China are interested to come on board, they will have plug and play facilities in the industrial zones that are being set up by Amata of Thailand and KMIC of Korea and Semco of Singapore. Because these companies already have their operations in China, and they will be able to make use of that experience, come on board in Myanmar. So the Thai industrial park, Amata, is not new to China. They have similar facilities in China. Semco has a similar facility in Suzhou. So also the KMIC, the Koreans, into setting up small-scale industries. And as I said, in today's newspaper, in the Global New Light of Myanmar, they have a bid for the earthworks to begin on the 1st of December. So we are not too far away from starting up a new industrial park by the Koreans. And all these industrial parks will be able to provide factory space and welcome Chinese companies who are interested to start up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I suppose, Cyrus, you might have a follow-up on this topic.
Yes. I'd just like to just refer back to the Minister's first point about creating the right macro environment for SMEs to thrive in Myanmar. And the World Bank has issued a report during one of the webinars organized by the Hong Kong Chamber recently, where they talked about they reported on a survey done to many of the SMEs in the country. And by far the biggest problem that many of the SMEs sees is the lack of access to capital, or specifically lack of access to financing. They find it very hard to find to borrow money from the banks, especially if you don't have collateral. Your Excellency, you also mentioned earlier today that there's already been some liberalization in the banking sector. Foreign banks has already been allowed to set up in Myanmar. We see that as a good encouraging step, and yet probably a first step in quite a long reform process as well. Today, the foreign banks are still fairly limited in what they can do in Myanmar. So with that backdrop, what do you see should be the central bank's priorities in terms of liberalization going forward? What would you like to see more from the central bank to help enable these SMEs and enable financing to come? And what other, what other policy changes would you like to encourage in that area?
Thank you very much, Cyrus. What I've been telling you is like a trailer to a movie that is going to come out. One of these big movies that's going to come out. So the MSDP, we are working on it, and MERP is a work in progress. It's going to come out in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so I don't think I should jump the gun and tell you what it is included in that MERP. But I am given to understand that MERP will spell out ways to facilitate the entry of SMEs, as well as how the banks can facilitate the work, the ongoing changes that they are making. As you rightly pointed out, in the last few months, the banks have been making some changes, the central banks itself, but they have been stymied for the time being because of COVID-19. But notwithstanding this COVID-19 issue, we intend to proceed with the changes that we have initiated. We have taken small steps for now, but you will see that once the MERP is in place, they will go full steam with the changes. Right now, you have foreign banks that can open branches. That's already a major step. You now have a possibility to buy into Myanmar companies 35%. That's a step. Perhaps it's a small step forward, but we would like to make sure that these are steady steps going forward. So from these small, perhaps altering steps, we will make sure that steps are strong and firm in the coming years, but we need to have the rules and regulations put in place. That's the reason for the MERP. In fact, I am not fully involved in this MERP, but it is the Ministry of Planning and Finance and Industry that is in charge of this, but I have been given a tantalizing glimpse of things to come, and it looks good. It's a trailer. We will have to wait a few more weeks to get more details on this.
Thank you, Minister. And I think to wrap up, we have the last round of questions. A few of the members of the audience raised the issue of the digital economy, which I think we touched upon a bit already earlier, including Daoshun Foundation and Yoichi Nita. They are asking about, one is, how do you see Myanmar being part of the Digital Silk Road initiative? And maybe we can ask more broadly is what type of investments are you seeking for the digital economy in terms of e-commerce, e-banking, and a whole range of opportunities for investors in Myanmar?
Thank you, Thompson. As a follower of all the happenings in Myanmar, you are probably aware that in some of the seminars that we have organized, the State Councillor and myself have always insisted that we should catch up with our neighbors. And then in order to do that, we need to take quantum leaps, not just leapfrogging, but we want to take quantum leaps. To do that, we would need to ride on the back of digitalization. That is the only way we can catch up with the others who are moving very fast. And in the case of the current COVID-19 situation, you see that we have been nudged, or in fact, we have been forced to take that road to digitalization. For example, nowadays we can't meet face to face, so we do it with Zoom. So this is one way we are using digital technology to connect. We're also sending money through wave money, and I think you would have noticed that for the first time in Myanmar, now the use of mobile payments have increased multiple fold, and we are exponentially has gone up. So we are surprised at the way people have adapted to this. This has also been helped by the fact that we now have 5G technology. 4G is common. We are moving on to 5G. So people are now able to use digital means to send money or to make sure that the information is available. In the case of my own ministry, MIFA, we have two big departments, one dealing with investment, the other dealing with economic relations. The economic relations part, we take part in the negotiations of the agreements like RCEP, for example, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. That department also deals with World Bank and ADB and other multilateral financial institutions to get loans and to talk about banking and stuff like that. But the other arm, the important arm, is the investment arm, which is based in Yangon. So it is important for us to attract investment. We have already said that we would like to get the kind of investment that we need, and we have set targets. This year, the target was $5.8 billion US.
Wow.
We have hit 5.7. So even despite COVID, we are at 5.7. So it's not so bad. But we expect that in the coming year, we will do better. In order to do better, we need to digitalize. So we started first with company registration online. Tax payment is now online. If you are in Yangon, and of course, Thomas, you need to pay taxes for Myanmar Times, and you can do it online. And if you are expecting to build something, you can do it or get permits, building permits online. So all these are glimpses of the future for us in Myanmar. We are beginning to use the modern technology to move forward. And if we want to move at a faster pace, we need to take the quantum leap, and the tools for that is digitalization. So we will move towards digitalization more and more, and you will see in the coming months and years that things will be different. In fact, we are moving towards e-government, and I don't think I will be spilling the beans to tell you that sometimes between government offices, we do operate online. And even when ministers meet, we have online agendas online. We don't need to send papers all the time. So this is a vast improvement from the recent decades. We have moved very fast in the past 1 decade. And this is palpable. You can feel it when you are in Yangon, when you can feel it sitting in Myanmar Times, I'm sure.
Thank you, Minister. And I think with that, we'll wrap up today's webinar. So once again, thank you, Minister U Downturn and your ministry for taking part. And also thank you, Edgar, Cyrus, Adrian, for helping out and speaking at this event. The MHKCCI would also like to thank you, our 4 supporting organizations promoting today's event: the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, the Hong Kong Macau Myanmar Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Hong Kong Myanmar Manufacturers Association, and the Downturn Foundation. So please join us in the next event. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Hope that we could meet again.
Very interesting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you all.